to be reported, particularly in Jenin, Tubas and Tulkarm governorates, where refugee camps and infrastructure are heavily impacted. Many of these areas are in Area A under the Palestinian Authority's civil and security responsibility. Israeli forces have deployed airstrikes and other heavy weaponry, whilst Palestinian militants have used improvised explosive devices and carried out shooting attacks. This takes place alongside continued violence and intimidation by Israeli settlers against Palestinians and attacks by Palestinians against Israelis. Following the detonation of 3 bombs on empty buses near Tel Aviv in a suspected terror attack, the IDF has increased its troop presence in the West Bank. I'm alarmed by the killing of a pregnant woman and young children during these operations. These incidents must be thoroughly investigated and those responsible held to account. Mr. President, regarding continued illegal settlement activity, approximately 2,000 new housing units have been advanced in recent weeks, mostly in Area C. State land declarations and settler outposts impede Palestinian land use for farming, while demolitions and evictions have been accelerated. Severe moving restrictions continue to paralyze daily life for many Palestinians, hindering access to essential services and economic activity. These developments, along with continued calls for annexation, present an existential threat to the prospect of a viable and independent Palestinian state and thereby the two-state solution. Mr. President, Israeli legislation that bans UNRWA from operating in Israel and occupied East Jerusalem took effect on the 30th of January 2025. The Secretary General has condemned the breach of inviolability of the United Nations premises in occupied East Jerusalem. UNRWA's work remains essential and must be allowed to continue unimpeded. Mr. President, the Palestinian Authority, as has been reported, continues to implement agreed-upon reforms, including fiscal and public finance policy, governance and rule of law, for the investment climate and basic service provision. In early February, the Palestinian Authority issued a decree cancelling financial payments to the families of Palestinians killed or imprisoned following attacks on Israelis. This represents an important step in the Palestinian Authority's reform agenda, and it should be fully implemented. Mr. President, turning briefly to the region, in Lebanon, the election of the president and formation of the new government provide an opportunity to fully empower state institutions in laying the foundation for greater stability, to extend state authority, and address the country's multifaceted challenges. And I call upon Lebanon and Israel to uphold their commitments upon the cessation of hostilities and undertake meaningful steps towards the full implementation of Security Council Resolution 1701, to restore stability and allow the people on both sides of the blue line to return home. In southwest Syria, the UN is concerned by violations of the 1974 Disengagement of Forces Agreement, and I urge the parties to uphold their obligations under the agreement. Mr. President, since assuming the role of Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process ad interim, my team and I have actively engaged with all relevant parties. I've initiated consultations in the region and will continue to engage with key stakeholders. These consultations have reaffirmed there is no sustainable resolution to the current war or wider conflict that is not fundamentally political. As we engage in planning for Gaza's future, we need to ensure, 1, Gaza remains an integral part of a future Palestinian state. 2, Gaza and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, are unified politically, economically, and administratively. 3, there will be no long-term IDF presence in Gaza, and Israel's legitimate security concerns are addressed. We need to commit to ending the occupation and a final resolution of the conflict based on UN resolutions, international law, and previous agreements. I would like to make 4 key requests. First, continued support for the full realization of the ceasefire deal, including the release of all hostages. This is critical. Second, it is crucial not to lose sight of the dangerous dynamics in the West Bank and urgent de-escalation which is needed. Third, the international community must continue to support the Palestinian Authority in its reform efforts and its resumption of responsibilities in the Gaza Strip. Palestinian security forces should also be empowered to carry out their responsibilities in areas under their control. Fourth, politically and financially support Gaza's recovery and reconstruction effort. Mr. President, peace in the Middle East is possible. We can achieve a future where a safe and secure Israel exists, alongside a viable and independent Palestinian state. This requires continued concerted efforts, dedication, and political courage by all parties. The United Nations will continue to play its role in pursuit of lasting peace. Thank you.
我感谢卡格女
Thank
士
Ms.
所做
Clark
的通
for
报。
her briefing.
我现在请
I now
阿加玛尼女士
give the
通报
floor
情况。
to Ms. Noor Akamani.
Hello. My name is Noor Gamani, and a really great honor to be here with you today. I was kidnapped by Hamas terrorists on October 7 from the Nova Music Festival with my partner, Avinatan Or. We were taken by force into Gaza. We were held in total fear, living in a nightmare. After 8 months in captivity, I was rescued by the Israeli soldiers. Being here today is a miracle. But I'm here today to tell you, we have no time. As I speak, there is still 63 hostages living in a nightmare, including my partner, Avinatan Or. In fact, we believe that 24 of them are alive. Many of them send sight of life through released hostages. Our life cannot go without them. And that is why I need to make sure that the world knows that. The deal must go on, in full and completely, in all the stages. My partner, Avinatan Or, and many other hostages